let's talk about Wild Blue Yonder, the second part of Doctor Who's 60th anniversary specials. There's going to be spoilers ahead as I share my feelings on this episode. Please share your honest review below, and while there, check the links to the Horror Exchange for more content and merchandise. So after a very divisive first instalment with the Star Beast and a spillage of coffee kicking the Doctor and Donna to an unknown place, Wild Blue Yonder was an enigma walking into it. Little was known about this episode beforehand, not much promoted or discussed, the trailers mostly being made up of footage from the Star Beast and the Giggle, so I was definitely more excited to see this middle special than the opening and closing, unaware of what mysteries may be tucked away inside. Mystery is the key word for this episode, because from the moment the Doctor and Donna land on an unknown ship in an unknown place for an unknown reason, Wild Blue Yonder has the power to grip the viewer, and as it unfolds, there's a hell of a lot to keep you in that grasp. Though there were some rumours that we may see some past Doctors in evil forms here, and I do think the episode set itself up to have a bunch of crazy cameos. I am really not bothered by the lack of those ideas because the story it tells is strong of its own merit. I did get a little concerned at the beginning with the silly pre-title sequence. Russell does enjoy his silliness from time to time, but the rest of this episode just had so much mavity to it. Sorry, gravity. That was great, by the way. What a lovely, quirky, timey-wimey concept. A conversation causing an ever so slight change in a word. Nothing too grandiose or universe impacting, but enough to make both the Doctor and Donna use the word mavity in normal conversation, having interfered with time. And I think the entire episode follows suit in that it experiments with these joyous pulp sci-fi concepts and just has fun with them. The core concept here, so summarising the context that's built throughout the episode, the Doctor and Donna land on a ship at the end of the universe. There's two hostile shape-shifting beings on board who want to go on a frenzy throughout the universe, and the captain of the ship put it into a very slow countdown to explode. As the slower time progresses, the slower the creatures learn. Of course, it took about 45 minutes for that context to be fully delivered, but that is a really cool idea, and the gradual step-by-step progression of those questions being answered was just a delight. Doctor Who hasn't hooked me like this with a mystery for a long while, and the places this thing goes to are nothing short of intriguing. When the penny drops of the Doctor and Donna both being cloned, I bloody adored the subtlety. There wasn't a huge revelation with a bombastic Murray Gold score behind it. These moments were supremely understated. That's a word I think carries on throughout. The ideas involved are simple ones, but it's often the simple ones that are the most captivating. Why is the arc in space such a beloved classic story? The Doctor and co wind up on a seemingly abandoned space station with no idea why, and have to figure out what's going on. It just hooks you. Wild Blue Yonder has a similar flavour. It was a throwback episode with few moving parts and a tiny cast, all the focus being placed on the characters and the scenario. And if you caught my Star Beast review, you'll probably have guessed that the absence of the Sonic in this episode, thank you. This is something I truly hope the show does more of, even though it's probably not going to. I feel like the Sonic these days is a means of selling toys to the kids, and I get that. Doctor Who's a franchise, financial needs must. But removing the Sonic in this episode was so refreshing to me because it made the danger feel more tangible. Now the Doctor has to figure things out with his mind. He can't just fall back on the get out of jail gadget. He has to wander around, use the grey cells, piece things together, work out a plan with the resources in front of him. Basically, demonstrate his brilliance that we know and love the character for, while in the back of your mind feeling like there's a limitation to what he's able to do. Man, did I love that. And even if this is only a one episode deal, it means I'll be able to look back on this one fondly for years to come. Another pull factor that'll keep me coming back is David and Catherine. My lord, are they good here. Very good. By having their regular selves and their doppelganger selves, these actors were really given an opportunity to experiment. The intimidation tactics of the copies, the sinister nature of their performances, and the more outlandish stuff like changing their mass and the Exorcist crab walk. These things were a brilliant addition. I'm sure there's going to be a few people with this theory after this episode, but I wonder if there's any connection to whatever these creatures are and the Midnight Entity, another mysterious creature which can copy people, though that was more of a possessive creature with the copies here being more physical. It does still make me wonder if a connection connection can be made, especially as Midnight was also a Russell episode. If there is something in it, I'm glad the episode didn't say so. The reason Midnight is still my favourite new series episode is that the entity still hasn't been fully explained, giving the viewer the power of interpretation. If the wild blue yonder creatures are related, the fact it equally doesn't fully explain them means, again, if you want to make a link, that's down to the power of interpretation too. So, thumbs up from me. There was some truly shocking stuff tucked away in this episode, by the way, and a feeling of genuine dread. I know Russell described this one as a scary, dark episode before it aired, and I can understand why, but it's the character reasons that give this one fear factor for me. The fact that the replicas can copy memories as well as physical traits, so that there's a who's who going on, making the Doctor and Donna doubt each other, but there's also discussions about certain memories with mental barriers being kicked down. The biggest kick by far, wow. I am legitimately stunned that Flux and the Timeless Child were referenced here. Let's be honest, those plot points didn't go down particularly well with a lot of people, especially the Timeless Child, which was received with venom. Many people would have expected these things to have been retconned or just swept under the rug for a while. However, I do applaud the fact they've been brought up again and given relevance. Like, this took me back more than most other things in this episode, and David's rage-fueled reaction to having to face that conversation sells the hell out of how important the Timeless Child concept really is to the Doctor. I truly hope that Russell can do that controversial subject matter justice down the line in future seasons. I really bloody enjoyed the setting of this episode too. The design of the ship was nice, and there was a knife-edge atmosphere that carried me through the episode. There was a bit of comedy thrown in there, but it wasn't over the top. It was downplayed, so it didn't suck you out of the mood it created. And the production value, for the most part, was, again, a big step up. Apart from the main white corridor, which I thought looked pretty choppy in all honesty, but that's a minor nitpick I can more than let slide. I will say that regarding the episode's premise and setting though, admittedly, this didn't feel like a 60th anniversary episode. This felt like an episode that could be in the middle of any season. Really not that fussed about that because of how well it was executed. I feel like the power of the Doctor, though a problematic episode, felt more like a coming together of the show's past in celebration. Doing even more cameos of past Doctors or companions or digging up ideas from long ago wasn't needed here to make the best of its concept. It succeeded in being itself, not having to include crowd pleasers in order to please the crowd. Until the very end, of course. Seeing Bernard Cribbins again was just beautiful, and I did actually tear up here. As sad as his passing is, of course, I am delighted that at the very least we got to see him interact with the Doctor once more, especially a Doctor with a face he recognises. This moment was truly magical and ended the episode on a high note, especially with the craziness of everything going on with the end of the world leading into the giggle next week. Overall then, Wild Blue Yonder was my favourite episode of Doctor Who since The Doctor Falls. Possibly with the exception of Village of the Angels on its day. This one just took a neat sci-fi mystery idea and ran with it. It allowed David and Catherine to flourish with no distractions and induced some wonderfully creepy moments. The rewatch value based on the performances alone is there, and even though the mystery is solved and I know where everything heads, I don't think rewatching will impact my enjoyment of it because of how expertly crafted the tone was. This was a cracker. More of this kind of stuff in Shooty's era, please. But that's just my honest review. What's yours? Let me know in the comments below. I've been Connor from Unleash the Ghouls, and allons-y.